I do not like to be bullied or pressured into saying things or believing things that I do not believe. I find that terminology degrading. I'm not a birthing person, okay? I'm a woman.
What's wrong with being called a birthing person?
Well, first of all, not all women even have the capacity to get pregnant. So it's degrading to them to be essentially to have their womanhood questioned if they're not
What a point.
if they're unable to have kids to begin with. But also, I mean, look, they'll turn around and they'll say, no one's calling you a birthing person. Okay, does someone need to call an individual who finds the N-word offensive the N-word in order for him or her to find it offensive or degrading? And besides which, I was called that, yes, in a medical setting. And in California, medical providers are basically like told that there will be penalties if they don't use the proper terminology or if they're caught doing anything discriminatory toward the trans community. Now, if they're actually doing something discriminatory toward the trans community, I think medical providers absolutely should face consequences. But the idea that we should change all of our terminology, even toward women who want to be called women, in order to be inclusive is ridiculous to me.
How Anna off the Young Turks became a turf. Like, what is going on? Okay, let's just get it straight. Okay, trans men, female to male. 65% of all trans people, guess what? Have no surgeries. Most of the time, haircut, clothes, maybe makeup or whatever does it. Sometimes just top surgery. I think only like 20% of trans people have bottom surgery. Anyways, so a trans man can still have a child because they still have a vagina. Okay? So if they have a child, they do not want to be referred to as a mother because they're a trans man. And that is a feminine term. So they would rather be called a birthing person. Okay? And if they are going to breastfeed, they don't like the word breast. They would rather it be called chest. Those words do not concern natural biological women. Y'all need to let that shit go. Because when you start saying shit like that, that makes me think you're neck. Right? Something wrong with you. You got malfunction down there or something, okay? What is this low confidence bullshit? Because the only people that are a threat to women are white, heterosexual, cisgendered men and Clarence Thomas. So while y'all over here yelling at trans people, they legislating your bodies away and your uteruses away. Your daughter's going to have your husband's, her own daddy's baby. You get some fucked up shit going on. It ain't got shit to do with trans people.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about this pretty fascinating video here that I think is an example of how all teachers should be, especially when it comes to dealing with woke students who are always boohoo, whining, crying about bigotry and hate, which is very commonplace, okay? Because this is what students are being taught, to see everything through the lenses of race, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, bigotry. This is what they're being taught, okay? They're being programmed to think that way. And when you have kids and young people being programmed to think this way, aka to be progressive, then you have to deprogram them to get them back to a place of reality and common sense, which is exactly what this base teacher is going to do after a student accuses JK Rowling of being transphobic. Now, before I get into this, I have to give full disclosure here for you guys because I'm not sure how real this video is. I don't know if it's a skit. It was posted by Lee Harris, who's a contributor for GB News, so Great Britain News. So I'm hoping that it is legit and real, but I don't know. Regardless, I think this teacher does give a masterclass on how to deprogram woke revolutionary students. So regardless, I think it's worth reacting to and talking about. So I want to go ahead and get into it, but before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Have you guys taken a good look at the banks lately? Now, on the surface, everything may seem fine, but there's a whole lot more going on underneath. It's like looking under the hood of a car and finding a mess of broken wires and parts. The parts are loans for homes, cars, and the credit cards that we use. They're all hitting record highs. It's really scary when you think about it. Why risk your money for a tiny 5% when things are so shaky? This is where Noble Gold can help. They're like that friend that knows all about how to keep money safe. They suggest gold and silver, oldies but goodies in the finance world. Plus, they've got a sweet deal, a 1/4 ounce gold standard coin this month if you qualify. That sounds pretty cool, right? If you're curious, just give them a call at 877-646-5347. That is 877-646-5347. And don't worry, it's just a chat, no pressure. They will help you figure out if gold and silver are right for you. Or you can visit noblegoldinvestments.com and take the first step towards a safer, more secure financial future. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
So these guys want to talk about JK Rowling? Is that so? What's going on with that? What do you want to know?
She's had a pretty controversial past. I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it? And, like, do you still like her work despite her bigoted opinions?
So let's get specific, though. Let's define bigoted opinions. What opinions are bigoted? We're going to treat this as a thought experiment. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong or what way to think. The whole point is to learn how to think, not what to think.
Yeah, which is something that's not taught in schools anymore, okay? What they're teaching kids in school is what to think, not how to think, okay? It's a lost art.
So when you say bigot, you're starting with the conclusion that given her bigoted opinions.
Yeah.
So first let's start with, does she have bigoted opinions? So when you say bigoted opinions.
She has had a history of being extremely transphobic, I've heard.
Hey, you've heard. So what? Can you give me an example?
If you look at her Twitter, I think you could see a few things. If you want, I could try and find
see
something.
See if you can find one.
So, one of these tweets that she came up with in 2019, she said, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real."
So you find that bigoted? What do you find about
it was
in there?
It was deemed transphobic. I myself.
Do you find that transphobic yourself?
I don't really have an opinion on it, but I'm just going with what a lot of other people have said.
So let's pause there. Let's not go with what other people are saying. Let's try and learn how to critically think. So
Exactly. Ding, 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 ding. Now, again, I'm not sure exactly how real this is. Okay, it could very well be a skit. But it is a very realistic representation of how a lot of these people think or how they don't think, okay? Because that's the problem, okay? They go along with what other people are saying, and they say, well, other people are saying that this is transphobic, right? The trans community says that they're offended by this. Therefore, it must be bigoted, right? It must be something that should be censored, or it must be a bad thing, without actually really understanding what is being said and what is being deemed as bigoted, right? What exactly was said that warrants the label of bigotry? A lot of people actually don't think through it. They just support whatever the woke revolutionaries say in regards to what they're offended by, and they just go with that as if they have the authority to just label anything they don't like as a form of hate, okay? And again, this is a common problem, right? A lot of people simply just go along to get along because, hey, I don't want to offend these people, so therefore I'm not going to acknowledge the reality of sex, okay? This is how we got here, because most people, if you ask them, whether they're liberal, conservative, whatever, across the board, they're going to say, yeah, sex is biological reality. Okay, they're going to say that behind closed doors. But if they know that their opinion is going to be heard by somebody that they don't want to offend, then they may change their opinion. Okay, they may come out and say, well, maybe it's on a spectrum, right? Maybe it's on a spectrum. We need to respect everybody's opinions, okay? And this is typically what happens. A lot of people hate having a bigot card pulled on them, right? They know the truth, but they just go along because they'd rather just not have that confrontation with, the people that are always getting their feelings hurt.
So let's analyze the tweet ourselves. So that statement, do you see anything problematic? Disregarding other people's opinions.
She did try and pin some things on a specific group of people.
Where does she do that? Can you read that?
But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real.
So when I hear that, I'm interpreting that as meaning if a woman says that, saying that there is a difference between men and female and then being attacked as transphobic, I think that's what she's saying by attacking someone for stating that sex is real?
That is exactly what she's saying.
Is that transphobic to you?
So, to me, no. Stating that sex is real is not transphobic. It's just a fact of life. It exists.
So is there anything you disagree with in that tweet?
In that tweet, I can't really see anything that I myself disagree with, but I can see why some people would think, oh, this is offensive. We can't have that here or something.
And screw them, right? That should be the response to that. The response should be, if you know yourself that it's not offensive and that these people are butthurt for no reason, then you should say, screw these people. I don't care if you're offended. Free speech, and people should have a right to say and state their opinions, especially when you know that people who aren't cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs insane can tell that there's nothing bigoted by what JK Rowling said in that tweet.
Sure.
There's an apology tweet.
Let's read that. What did she say there? I haven't read that.
I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. I do not believe it is hateful to say so.
You see anything problematic there?
She's apologizing, so no, not really. If I could read it again.
It sounds like a very similar statement as what she was just saying. She's basically saying, like, I have nothing, to me, this is what I interpret it as, I have nothing against someone being trans.
Exactly.
It's your life, but you just don't get to impose on you can live how you want, I can live how I want.
Yeah.
And let's all,
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's not good enough for the woke revolutionaries, okay? Because the woke revolutionaries do want to impose their viewpoints on the rest of society, right? They want the majority to capitulate to the minority. That's what they want. And this is why they call people like, JK Rowling or even an Anna Kasparian, who has waken up on this issue as well, too. Oh, well, you're a TERF, right? You're a trans exclusionary radical feminist. This is why they say that, because, again, these women are seeing the writing on the wall in regards to the direction that women's rights are going in when you have biological men that are just able to freely claim that they are biological women, and then they can be in women's spaces. They see that as, okay, well, this is an attack on women's rights. Okay, we don't have autonomy or the ability to have our own spaces. So you have to agree with the woke revolutionaries 100%, or else you're a bigot, even though their positions aren't logical and they make no sense in a sane and rational society.
So I guess now that we're looking at it like, oh, there's not much difference between me or her. Do you think it's fair that that she's being attacked by a large group of people and people are calling her, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, you said, given the fact that JK Rowling is transphobic, how do you feel about Harry Potter? Now, retroactively looking at that statement, do you think that was the best way to phrase?
No, I feel like an idiot now.
It's okay though, but this is why we do this, to learn how to think.
Yeah. So I hope that's real, right? And I think that teacher did a great job. I wish more teachers were like that, regardless of whether or not it's real, where you have a woke student, boohoo, whine, and crying bigotry or something like that, and you just sit down and you actually ask them questions to make them think about their positions, okay? And when you actually have to sit down and think about your positions and your worldview, then you can clearly and obviously see that a lot of these people, again, they simply don't think. They don't know how to critically think. They're just taught what to think. And, it doesn't stand up to logic or reasoning. It really doesn't. But again, what you have here, or what has been highlighted, is the problem that we have in our society is that there are a lot of people who are on the fence, who know what the truth is, but yet they go along with the woke revolutionaries because they're afraid of being called bigots, okay? This is why when you have certain polls, like, for example, when you ask Americans whether or not they agree with biological men competing against biological women in sports, overwhelmingly, Americans don't support that, right? But then once you rephrase the question as, do you agree with discrimination in sports against trans people, you'll get a different answer, even though there is no discrimination against trans people in sports, okay? Because nobody wants to feel like they're discriminating against a trans person. However, they claim that discrimination is them not being allowed to be in spaces of the opposite sex, when that's not discrimination. This is why they always try to frame it as hate and bigotry, because that's the only way that they can get people who are on the fence, who know what the truth is, who know what's right and know what's wrong, to get on board with them, because they're not using logic and reasoning. No, they're using emotion, right? They're trying to play off of people's emotions. And a lot of people, they're on the fence. They know that it's wrong, but they don't speak out about it because, again, they rather just not hurt anybody's feelings, and they are susceptible to these emotional arguments that are being made by the woke revolutionaries in order for them to get their way. Well, just go along with it. Who cares, right? Who cares if, biological men are beating up women in sports, right? Who cares? Nobody cares, right? This is what they do. And it's fascinating that, we have a society that, has given this much credibility to the far left movement, but this is what you need, right? You need to start deprogramming people, and the best way to deprogram somebody is to actually make them think, right? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.